everybody, it's Mrs. Clemens.
And Mr. Marshall.
And this is U.S. History Flipped. Whoop whoop.
Yay.
Alright, so guys, we are moving on into the groovy 60s.
Yeah, dude.
I'm just totally putting on my mini skirt and listening to the Beatles, because, you know, they were around in the 60s. Not in the 70s, they had broken up. I don't know, doing the 60s groovies things. All right, guys, so I don't know why I have the animation, because I don't know exactly what you're going to write for this, but write down 1960s and John F. Kennedy. Do it now. So anyway, I don't know if you guys know this, but in the 1960s, there was this president, John F. Kennedy, and he has a bunch of firsts. He gets a first for being our youngest elected president. So you may remember before we talked about Teddy Roosevelt being our youngest president at the age of 42, but that was because McKinley was assassinated. JFK is our youngest elected president at the age of 43. And so, man, I gotta tell you, everybody had a crush on him. They just thought he was just so young and vivacious. He had been a war hero in World War II. And, you know, you look at him and his wife is just so pretty, and, you know, his kids are so young and cute. And they took a lot of pictures. He definitely used that to his advantage, and he took a lot of pictures of them around the White House. You know, here they are, like Caroline with her pony, and this is JFK Jr., but they called him John. And so, yeah, you know, it's just like this perfect kind of family. This is the Time magazine when Earl Warren is swearing in JFK, and we're going to be talking about Earl Warren later. And this one also we're going to be talking about later. This is the day JFK was assassinated, and this is the very famous pink outfit that Jackie Kennedy was wearing. All right, so television is now a new thing that politicians have to worry about. You know, television had been around, but not everyone had televisions, and now everyone has them. They're watching them. And so they have this major televised debate between JFK, who looks young and tan and healthy, and Richard Nixon. Now, Richard Nixon had been vice president under Eisenhower in the 1950s, and so it's kind of one of those things that he sort of thought, oh, yeah, I'll totally win this. Kennedy was a Democrat, Nixon was a Republican, and there's this whole thing, you know, talking about the different reasons why Nixon lost. But definitely one of the major powerful things was just the power of television. And they talk about the debates and how, you know, supposedly how the people that watched it on TV were like, oh, Kennedy totally won. But the people that listened to it on the radio said, oh, no, Nixon totally won. And they say that because, oh, well, Nixon had better points, so the people that were just listening to it, they could hear that. Whereas the people that were watching, you know, he was perspiring and he just kind of looked uncomfortable. And so ever since then, people have paid a lot of attention, especially politicians, to how they appear on TV.
Now, right here, we have the new frontier, you know. Every president kind of gets their own little thing going, and JFK, this is his. You know, he wants to stimulate the economy. He wants to get rid of poverty. You know, he wants to create the Peace Corps, which he did, which was a great thing. You know, and he says that he wants to be able to land a man on the moon by the end of the decade, and he is actually able to, which is just crazy. Right? And the big thing here is stimulating the economy and getting rid of the poverty. You know, because JFK had to fight really, really hard to get this going, and while he was alive, he really wasn't able to make a whole lot of headway. You know, once he died, though, everybody just was like, "Oh, JFK wanted this. We have to help out." You know, and then it really started to get going. But he had a really, really tough time with it while he was still alive, and unfortunately, he was not alive for long.
I don't know why I'm laughing.
What eventually happened was a poor bullet found his head.
A poor bullet found his head?
I don't know.
So, like, if a rich bullet had found it, it would have been something different?
Oh, then it would have bounced off.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So right here, these are some different pictures of the actions of the day. You know, You have JFK right here riding in his convertible. This is one of the reasons why presidents no longer ride in convertibles, because you're very exposed.
Yes, yes.
This picture right over here, this was taken after the assassination. This is his vice president. This is Lyndon Baines Johnson getting signed in an airplane. This is like right after it happens. They didn't want anybody to be like, oh no, who's the president? No. President died, he got assassinated, and as soon as they're able to, they were like, okay, he's dead, let's make sure we still have a president. Let's have him swear in.
Right, following the Constitution.
Exactly. Right next to him, where's the little mouse thing? There we go. So right here, this is the pink outfit that Miss Clemens was talking about earlier. And even though you can't really see it on the picture
Actually, you
all
can
that
see
well.
it a little bit down there.
Down here.
But even there, it's not the greatest. But
because unfortunately, when he gets shot in the head, his brains and blood and everything go all over his wife, which is pretty freaky.
And for those of you guys that are lovers of the freakiness, we're going to talk so much more about this in class, and you'll get to give your theories and make us all be very, very afraid.
So once LBJ, or Lyndon Baines Johnson, becomes president, he starts doing his whole thing.
And the thing that he starts is called the Great Society. And so you may have heard me actually mention it before, and I mentioned it when we were talking about the importance of the New Deal. What is the New Deal, you say? The New Deal was FDR's plan to get us out of the Great Depression. And so we had talked about how that had significance, that it set that precedent for the future, that the government's supposed to get involved in the lives of the people and, to take care of our welfare. So it was also known kind of commonly as the War on Poverty. It created all kinds of different programs like Head Start for education, the welfare system, the modern welfare system, Medicare, which is insurance for the elderly, Medicaid, which is insurance for people with lower incomes, low-income housing, which is like basically the project. Like seriously, they built, housing projects, which we all lovingly call the projects. They thought it was going to be a really nice thing. Obviously, it did not turn out that way. They actually improved educational funding. They said, you know what? One way people get out of poverty is by being educated. And so they created that in college scholarships. He also worked on environmental protection and consumer advocacy. By the way, you might notice I have a couple clips in here. I'm going to have links to them. I will have links to them, and you will see them, and you'll like them.
So right here, this is, it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of scary and sad. So when cars are first made, they're, driving around, they're loving them. But as the technology advances, the safety does not keep up with the technology. And because of that, we end up with some problems that just don't really make sense to modern Americans. For example, if you take a look at this car down here and how shiny and beautiful this little dashboard is, it's all sparkly. Yeah, it would blind you. You'd be driving and then blinded by your own car, and then you'd smash into a wall. And obviously, that's not a very good thing. So Ralph Nader, who's this guy, you have young and old pictures of him right here, writes this book called Unsafe at Any Speed. And he starts describing these things, like why we need to not blind our drivers while they're driving, why we should have seat belts, that if we put the gas can in the back of the car, if it gets rear-ended, it will look like this when it's supposed to look like this. It's just things that we're just like, well, of course you wouldn't do that. They just didn't think of, it was brand new to them. They didn't have firewalls inside, the cars to prevent the flame from shooting into the actual cab where the people are sitting.
And so just before you go on, Mr. Marshall, just two things about this. One thing is that, he kind of leads this charge, and that's part of the reason why today, back then they only had lap seatbelts, then they start the 3-part seatbelts. That's why you get airbags, that's why you get all the different things you get. But also, Ralph Nader, you might know him. We're going to talk about him more when we talk about the election of 2000, because he ran for president then, and a lot of people blame him for taking votes away from Al Gore.
He ran for president a couple of times, didn't he?
He did for fun. It's what they do.
So, and then another thing that's really, really big that's going on at the time is civil rights. You have the Civil Rights Act of '64, the 24th Amendment. Finally, no more poll tax.
Thank goodness.
It takes this long for it to finally happen, right? Which is just crazy. You know, the fact that it took until 1965 to get rid of literacy tests.
I mean,
Seriously?
both of them, like, that's basically just, like 90 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's Captain Crazy Pants.
It definitely is. I mean, the Civil Rights Act that you guys see up here. So, outlawed discrimination in public accommodations, housing, jobs. That's saying that, if you go to apply for a job, they can't discriminate based on the color of your skin. If you go to get an apartment, in an apartment complex, you fill out, the whole housing application, credit score, and whatnot. They can't discriminate against you. That's all the stuff that's coming out right now.
And that's it for this segment.
Yeah.
Wow, time is flying.
Yeah, it's actually going by really fast.